Right, I just showed you the negatives drying on the hanger over at the side of the studio. They have now dried, so I'm going to take one of those strips of film and I'm going to try to scan it using my ancient prime film scanner and my equally ancient Sony laptop, which I'll just start firing up now. This combination is far from ideal. I wanted to scan the film using my Mac that I use for everything else, but it doesn't work because the scanner is defunct and is not supported by the latest operating systems. So we're on Windows XP here, and I probably need to switch on the film scanner as well, or it won't find it. Oh, I can hear the scanner making, CyberView X, that's what I need. So what we need to do now is take our film strip, which had dried. So here it is. So this is the film strip on its little clip, which I can take off now, because that was just to hang it from. And you can see this dark area of the film here. This is the leader bit that was exposed to the light when we loaded the film, so there's no pictures on there. And then the first picture here is slightly cut off because it was fogged, and then we get all the actual pictures here. So we open up the scanner and pick the first frame that we want to scan. So I suppose the sensible thing would be to pick one that we might actually want. That looks nice. Let's go for this one. So we make sure that the frame is completely in the right place. Then we close this to stop any stray light getting in. Then we switch off this ancient antivirus software, which decided it wants to load itself for no apparent reason, so you didn't ask it to. Right, on the computer we pre-scan the current frame. So if you look down here, it's scanning it at 1800 dots per inch. It's an 8-bit colour depth. Oh, exciting, exciting, our first picture. And there it is. It looks very dark and a bit wiggly. It's hard to tell if the problem is with the picture or... Let's try scanning that again, see if we have any more joy. Pre-scan current frame. And if you look here, you'll be able to see a little scanning head pop out and start scanning. Oh, there we go. We've actually got a picture this time. It's not looking amazing, but it is a picture nonetheless. Let us actually scan that. That was a pre-scan, and let's see how long this takes. I suspect quite a while. Oh, here we go. Can you see how it's like a photocopier, just scanning line by line? And I think when it gets to a certain point, that's skipping, isn't it? I think the belt that's driving this, oh, that does not sound good, does it? And that head looks like it moved slightly, so I think that this scanner is possibly not in top condition. It's probably seen better days. Anyway, it's processing. There we go, transferring image data, we're getting there. This is all just to do one frame. So this is going to take quite a while, isn't it, to do a whole film, or 2 whole films in fact. And how we're going to transfer these from here again is just another... It looks distorted. Now, is that distorted because the film is distorted, or is it distorted because the scanner has distorted it? Let's have a look at the film. Now, I think it is the scanner that has distorted that. It looks fine on here. Obviously, it's hard to tell, but I think that this scanner is just doing a really bad job. But then I have a little trick up my sleeve, which is I have made a little scanner out of foam and paper and gaffer tape. Using that and an iPhone, I reckon I can scan this better than this ancient scanner, which is actually pretty much useless now. And also it's going to be a lot quicker than watching these frames go by it. What does it take? About 15 seconds, probably about 30 seconds to do one photo in this way after setting everything up. So that's just not good enough, is it? So here we have two pieces of foam stuck together by the wonderful gaffer tape with a hole. And I think you can guess what that hole is for. That hole is to expose the frame of film to a sensor of some sort. All I need to do is just line up. There we go. That's already looking better. Not perfect, but at least we can see what's going on in it. Not distorted, not wavy. So it is the scanner that's at fault and not the film. So that's good. The camera worked, the developing worked. So what we could do, we could either get a new scanner, that would be very expensive, or we could take the film to a lab to have it scanned. Or again, we could have had the whole film processed and scanned by a lab. That would probably have cost about £20. So total for this 36 exposure film, about 30 quid. And how many of those shots are we going to keep? That is the key question. So I will go away and I will scan these and we'll have a look at the results and see whether we think there is £30 worth of material there. And then I will sum up by talking about the pros and cons of shooting film, what I've learned from doing it, or rather what I've remembered from doing it that I had forgotten about, and how my attitudes changed due to the new technology that's available and the way things have moved on since the last time I shot film. So let's have a look at a quick slideshow and then I'll be back with you to have a chat, possibly after I've taken off this hat. So this is the first picture I took and it was really just a test. It's basically a close-up of equipment on my desk, so nothing really to write home about here. We can't really judge anything by this. But if we move on to the next image, I think you'll agree that it's a pretty good negative. The exposure's okay, the tonal range is good, it's sharp, and I think this is a really good example of black and white film photography. One thing you could say about it is it's quite vanilla, but that can't be said of the next shot. This picture is actually of a mannequin in the studio, which belongs to my wife. She uses her half of the studio for vintage clothing, and this is somewhere where the medium really suits the subject. The sepia toning, the frame guidelines really make it look like a lovely vintage shot. Those sepia tones, it has to be said, have something to do with how I scanned the image as much as how I shot the image, but still, it's something that's been part of this process. This next shot is the one that I had mentioned when I was walking down the river, where I thought a car had gone in front of the tower blocks as I was shooting them. As it turns out, they didn't, but it's not turned out to be the most exciting shot in the world, to be fair. This next shot is a derelict Sainsbury's on my way back from the studio, and I quite like the way the lights fall on this. It's quite a bold image, and the halo effect that's created again by the way it's been scanned kind of adds something to the picture. I think black and white really suits this as well, as it makes the geometric forms really stand out. This shot was taken where they're building a new bus interchange by the arches in Mersey Square, and I love it because it's a picture that looks like it could have been taken any time in the last 150 years. It's that classic documentary style photo, and it's really nice to have it on film. Immediately after I took that shot, a big group of birds murmurated above, and I think this is a perfect example of how a grainy, dirty frame of black and white film can add rather than subtract from a picture. I've shot this scene, the Mersey River near Didsbury, many times, and again I think there's something special about this being on film. I think the sharpness, the grain, again the sepia toning really makes it look like a classic photograph rather than just a dull colour shot of a fairly ordinary scene. Likewise with these trees which I shot along the river. If I'd just shot this with my digital camera, I would probably have thrown this picture away thinking it was nothing very exciting. But actually, the film just sort of brings something out here. Or is that just my romance and sense of wonder because I'm using film again? Like this selfie under the bridge, under the motorway bridge at Northern. I would probably have thrown this picture away. I probably wouldn't even have taken this picture if I was with my digital camera. But there's something really nice about it. Is it again the frame guides and the Ilford logo at the top that makes it seem special? If I didn't know this had been shot on film, would I still like the picture? I don't know. Finally, here's a shot of the film lab where I used to get my films developed all the time, and I still get printing done here, so I was passing and it just seemed like an appropriate way to finish off the roll of film. So that's it. Let's sum up, after having a look at some of the pictures, what I think I've gained from this experience of shooting and developing film again. So I hope you enjoyed that slideshow. As you can see, I'm back and I'm not wearing the hat, but it is still really chilly, so I have got the electrically heated gilet on just to keep warm while I talk to you. What are my takeaways from this experience? Well, I'm definitely not going to be shooting film as a regular thing. It is just too involved, too slow, too expensive to do really for anything practical. But that said, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the experience. I really enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed the discipline that it necessitated. I enjoyed the process of developing as well as actually shooting the images. So if I was going to do film again, I would want to develop it myself. The only bit I actually really didn't enjoy was the scanning. Obviously the film scanner doesn't work, so the one digital bit wasn't good, which meant that I was then left with using an iPhone and a handmade piece of equipment to actually scan the frames. And although the result was interesting and it was kind of quirky, it's not something that would work for many projects. But I definitely will develop film again. I will shoot film again because it's an experience. And one thing it's done as well is just remind me how much respect we owe to the photographers of the past who didn't have the digital photography equipment that we have today, didn't have the luxury of being able to shoot 50 frames in a couple of minutes and just pick the one out that they liked and be able to check the exposure, check the focus, check everything. Some of the magic has gone, and we assume that a picture that we might see on social media is, oh, that's a great picture. Well, even if it's not been manipulated and montaged and done with the use of AI, it's still not been created in the way that a film photographer of the past would have had to do it. Those people really knew their stuff. They were craftsmen, they were scientists as well as being artists, the best of them. And I don't think that can be said for all of today's photographers. So I have even more respect than I had before for those people. And again, I look back at when I used film and I just think, how did I manage? But I guess people's expectations were lower back then as well. Not that I didn't produce great work, but if you went to shoot an event, you wouldn't be expected to come back with dozens of images, hundreds of images sometimes, and produce full-size images of all of those. You might have a contact sheet of half a dozen images, a dozen images, and the client would pick one from that. So things have changed so much, in many ways for the better. I am really glad that I've got family photos shot with high resolution video and digital, which I'll be able to look back on. But I still love those black and white, grainy, dirty, gritty film images that I've shot. So that's it. I hope you've learned something, some practical stuff about how you can actually shoot and develop film if you want to do it. And otherwise, I hope you just enjoyed coming along with me for the ride. I will hopefully do some more in the studio soon, but for now, that's it. Thanks very much for being with me, and see you again soon. Have a great week.